Hello, my conscious evolutionaries. Welcome back to the campfire. If you're new here, this is Fika with EsRa, which means that we come together here to have a break, to connect, and to enjoy ourselves with a cup of coffee or tea and something nice to go with that, something that you like to eat. Fika is a little bit like afternoon tea or a 4 o'clock snack, like we used to say in Belgium. So fika is basically the Swedish variety of that. And I like to come here to have a fika with you guys so that we can unwind a little bit, just take a little break, take a little bit of time for ourselves, talk about some things. Today, I would like to explain some things about boundaries because we are in Scorpio season right now, and that is the astrological sign. It has everything to do with boundaries. And I find that so many people completely misunderstand how to have boundaries, which causes a lot of problems. So I hope I can explain some things about that today. And when I say I hope, I am going to do my best. I'm going to try. But the whole thing about this concept is that it's something I want to grow organically. So I don't know how these sessions are going to evolve exactly. And this is the first time that I am coming with a specific topic. And I'm trying to do that in a way that I keep the pressure off of myself. Because when I feel like I have to perform a certain thing, it's much harder for me to stay connected and to talk with you from the right place. Because it immediately puts some kind of extra pressure on myself to do a good job, to not make any mistakes. So that's my part in this. So this is my intention, and I'm pretty sure we'll get to it. But I also want to kind of get to it organically, if you understand what I mean. So let's start by, how are you doing? How are you holding up? I know things are very intense in the energies and in the collective right now. It is quite hard even for me to tap in right now because you feel like a lot coming at you. And so I'm pretty sure that everybody is feeling it pretty intensely and experiencing the effects of it in their own lives. Today for me is Monday. So when I post this video, it will be in 5 or 6 days on Saturday. So I'm a little bit ahead of when you'll actually be able to see this. Oh, I think they're still hunting or cutting down trees. If you hear some sounds, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm doing a new mic test today because the sound was still quite extensively noisy from the fire, because you do not only hear the crackling but also like all the, I don't know how to describe it in English, but like a lot of rushing and other sounds that muffle the nice sounds. So we're working with the lapel mic. So every episode, something new, and every episode, a little bit of evolution, and hopefully for the better. So the sound will be even better this time. But so I'm not sure what you will be able to hear from the surroundings here, but still, if you hear something, don't be startled by it. It's quite far away. But that took me away from what I was actually about to say. I was saying that, when I tape this video right now, we're a little bit ahead, some days ahead of when this is going online. So we will have shifted a little bit by then. But today we are right after the Mars-Pluto opposition. And I'm going quite extensively what that's about in my newsletter that I am sending out tomorrow. So if you'd like to be updated on that, go to the description and you will find the link to sign up for the newsletter. That way you can stay more connected and more up to date on what's happening. But yeah, that was a pretty intense transit personally, and I'm sure it was intense for everyone. It was quite emotional, a lot of things coming up. Even still today, feeling the after effects of it, so I wasn't feeling so great about doing this, because when I'm feeling like this, I prefer much more to hide away and not to go sit in front of the camera. But at the same time, it's probably more important to show up now for you guys than any other time. So here I am. I thought it would be nicer. I also planned to be a little bit earlier. The sunshine was out this morning, but it's quite gray. But I guess it's quite representative of the mood and the energy that's happening. So I guess that's also perfectly fine. And we still have the fire to warm ourselves. So grab yourself a cup of whatever it is you enjoy the most and grab yourself a nice snack. And let's have a little Fika and talk a bit about boundaries. So when you hear people teaching about boundaries or saying things about boundaries, you always say like, okay, you have to have boundaries. You need to put up boundaries. And just the intonation of that, just the energy that comes with that because of our concept of man-made boundaries in the world, like the boundaries of countries. all of that automatically comes with a connotation to having to defend your boundaries, which automatically implies a form of fighting. And when you have that energy, that's automatically what you will create. And it has this connotation and intonation that it takes a lot of effort, a lot of vigilance to keep those boundaries, to keep them up, to have them there. And it is, and it makes it hard, and it makes it a constant struggle to have them and to maintain them. And that's a problem, because if you've ever heard of a woman called Brené Brown, who has done a lot of social research, basically she has proven that if you want to live a fulfilled life, having very strong boundaries is the number one. It's not even priority, it's not even the right word. Requirement, that's the word. Like, that's what you need to have in order to be able to have that. And if you don't have that, you won't be able to have the other thing, the fulfilled life. So that makes it something that is so important and yet so misunderstood. But then, if it's not all these things that we've been taught and told, then what is it? And to explain that, I need to take you into the world of the horse, because that's how I came to learn and understand this. And this is one of the many reasons that horses are such great teachers for people, because they still live in their natural state, much closer connected to the energetic patterns that all of nature functions by. And so when you work with horses on their level, which is a very important nuance, what does that mean? That means that you literally have to fully step into the world of the horse, into the language of the horse, into how the horse functions, and not what we usually do, which is teach the horse how we want it to behave. And even in a lot of the natural horsemanship techniques, what we do is we condition the horse using either man-made techniques or techniques that resemble what horses do naturally. But it's still something else than fully bringing yourself into connecting with horses the way they connect with each other, and stepping out of how we function as humans and learn to function like a horse does. And when you can do that, and when you can start working on that subtle level, then you can start to experience these natural phenomena of how energy actually works in a practical way, in a palpable way, in a visible way. Then you will be able to see that if you hit the boundary of a horse, which you can then also sense energetically, that that horse, even though you are 10 or 20 meters away from that horse and you're not making any kind of aggressive movement or gesture to move that horse away from you, that horse will move. And I hope this is somewhat clear as I'm just explaining this theoretically, trying to paint a picture. But yeah, that's how you can experience these things in real life. And it's not just a theory or a philosophy or whatever, but it becomes a real life experience. And so the thing that you will see is, if you want to be able to do that type of work and if you want to get that kind of interaction with a horse, then boundaries is a very important thing. Because if you don't have clear boundaries, that horse will not respond to you the way that you hope it will respond to you. And when you try to put up these boundaries the way that we usually conceive in our mind, that we are going to put up these boundaries and we're going to have them and we're going to defend them, you will see that horses will run just right through them. They don't care about it. They don't respect it. They have absolutely no message. It doesn't mean anything to them. Because that's not something that's energetically strong or that's valuable or that shows you and your power, your actual power, your inner power. If you want to work with horses and you need to have clear boundaries, then you have to allow yourself to fill your entire space. That means your entire energy field until where it goes. And that means that you have to extend your presence into that field. And then where your presence ends, that's where your boundaries are. And then we still have layers upon that. So you will see that within horses, they have like layers that are further, layers that are closer by, and some, the furthest can be 20 meters, 50 meters even, depending on the sensitivity of the horse. And now, of course, not every layer has the same amount of presence. The closer you come, the more presence you have. But it's still something. It's a process. It's inside out. It's something that fills up itself and then reaches a certain point where it says like, okay, we've reached a certain level, and anything that goes beyond that has like a different level. So that's a boundary, and further there will be another boundary, and further there will be another boundary. But this is not something that you defend. This is something that is already full. So it's not really penetrable or enterable by something or someone else unless you consciously allow it. And let me think for a second. When you do it like that, then the general response of a horse will be, oh, I see you. I see this boundary, and I respect this boundary. And I see that you see my boundaries and respect my boundaries. And I see you're actually here and you're actually present. And I'm here and I'm present. So now we can start communicating. And now we can see how we can be here together and exist here together. And we can figure out who will take which role and how our relationship develops. That's all based on the fact that you're actually there and present and have these clear boundaries because of that. Not because you created them, but because they automatically arise by being there fully, by being present. And that's the difference between natural boundaries and man-made boundaries. Nature has all of these boundaries that just occur naturally by the fact that it exists. This lake has boundaries. It's not defending these boundaries the entire time. It's just, I'm full of water, and where the water ends, that's where my boundaries are. And when it's very dry, that boundary will shrink a little bit because there will be less water, so it will retreat a little bit. And then when there's a lot of rain and water and the snow just melts, it gets a little bit fuller and it expands a little bit. But it's always very, very clear. And yeah, things change and things evolve. Especially when we talk about nature, we talk about a long time. And yes, there are lakes that run dry over time and so on, but that's not the point. Because, we also evolve and that can change our boundaries a little bit. But what's much more important to understand is that lake is not thinking about whether it's worthy to be here, whether it's taking up too much space, or whether it's okay that that's here or there, or I don't know if they're still there. Yeah, I don't know if you can see them. They're like two swans on the lake, but they might just be completely behind me, so you might not be able to see them on the camera. But in nature, everything is very respectful of the boundaries that there are because it all is. It's not questioning itself. It's not conditioned in these weird ways that we are as humans. And that's the most important, to be able to have boundaries. You have to be present and be here and allow yourself to take up the space that you need and to not constantly tear yourself down or minimize or question everything to the point where you tear yourself down. And it's all about the energy in which you do it. Because when I said earlier, like most horses will respect those boundaries. Yeah, it doesn't mean that there is no testing at all, though. And that they will not see if you're like really serious and if you mean it. But there is a very big misconception amongst a lot of people when it comes to horses, because you will hear a lot of people say like, oh, this horse is so dominant, it doesn't listen, it's always trying to be dominant. And that's actually very, very rare. Usually that's just a case of a lot of miscommunication. Because for horses, it's not really beneficial to be the dominant one, because that means that you have to be the leader. And that means that if something goes wrong, it's your life that's on the line. I have a lot of smoke here. It's all going in front of me as far as I can see it in the camera, but yeah, I guess it doesn't matter so much. But I got sidetracked, sorry for that. So I was saying that if horses are dominant, they have to be the leader, and the leader for a horse is not like our president, the one that gets like, in America, they put them on the airplane as soon as there's any sign of trouble to keep him safe. No, for the horse, the leader is the one that faces the wolves or the whatever it is that are trying to attack his herd. So he's the one in the line of fire. So usually, like, if there's any other option, they don't volunteer for that. So if you as a human can show that horse that you're capable of being the better leader, that horse will gladly say, oh, sure, no problem. Then I don't have to stick my neck out in case something goes wrong. You want to take it, you can have it. But for horses, they will always choose the one who is the most equipped to be the leader, the person who has the horse who has the best qualities to actually be the leader. And if that's you, then you have to take that responsibility. Because if you don't and you leave it to someone who's not as good as you, you're also putting yourself in more risk and everyone else in more risk. So the horse who is best equipped for it will always take the position, because that's best for everyone, for itself and for the others. So as soon as you can demonstrate that you're worthy of leading, that horse will be fine. You can take it. No problem. But they have to be sure. So they will test if you have the quality, if you have the presence, if you can have your attention to keep it safe, because that's what they do. They have their attention always fully present in the full surroundings, because if something moves somewhere, you're the one who needs to see it and alert the rest. So if you cannot be fully here, not be fully present, and not have very good boundaries, then you can never be a very good and safe leader. So they might test that a little bit. But when we do that, we usually work with either a long rope or a long whip. Not to hit that horse, but basically to make my arm longer. And then I can say like, you see that end of that whip? Now I'm physically showing you where my energetic boundary ends. And when you're in like a paddock with a horse, and you can just go like, okay, here is my boundary. I'm showing it to you. And if that horse then tries to test that, you can go like, no, I meant it. There is my boundary. And I'm not having that boundary to just have it or to fuck with you or to, I don't know, be like, no, this is my space and you're not allowed to enter. No, this is my boundary because this is the space that I need to be able to be present and to secure the safety for you and for me. Because if you're like on my neck and standing here and like pushing me and whatever, I cannot do that. I need this space to make sure I can look after our safety. So it's all about this perspective, and you have to be present. And if you're not present and that horse comes and you're way too late, and then you have to go like, no, out, you've crossed it. It hasn't really crossed it because it wasn't there, because you weren't there. Because if you were there, you would have seen it and you would have been able to respond before it reached it. And that's what I meant by we then end up having to defend our boundaries when we have to artificially place them, and they're like an invisible line outside of yourself that we've created because we've mentally figured out that would be the best thing to do, but then we don't understand why people don't respect them or why we have to defend them all the time. It's because that's all that it is, this very weak thing that has no meaning and that has no energy behind it. So everybody goes like, well, But if it is something that exists because that's where something else ends, just like a natural boundary, like the boundary of this lake is the place where the water ends. It's that simple. So if you can be here and you can have this presence and fill your energetical field with it, then your boundaries will automatically appear. People will automatically sense them, whether they're conscious or not. That's why some days just speak like, this person just has this kind of presence and they automatically respect them. That's why these things, it's not because of what he's wearing or how that person looks. It's an energy thing. It's their presence. And it's because it's very clear and palpable. And horses still consciously live on that level. For people, unfortunately, it has become this subconscious thing where we go like, ooh, that person is impressive, but we don't really know why. So if you need to work on your boundaries, you have to go at it from a completely different perspective than you've probably done before. I hope that was clear, and I hope that that was helpful. And I hope that I said everything that I needed to say about this. And if I missed something and you have a question, feel free to leave it in the comments and I will gladly come back to it in our next session. think that deserved a piece of chocolate though. Well, I hope this will help you to figure out where your actual boundaries are. Because it's not something that you have to create or figure out. It's more like you have to discover them by becoming more of you and more present. But I know that's also a lot easier said than done, and that takes a lot of practice and work, and your nervous system might get in the way a lot in the beginning, and your thoughts might get in the way a lot in the beginning. That's all training of your attention, training yourself to stay present. But I hope these little sessions, can help a little bit with that, to just take this time in a casual, fun way to be a bit more present with yourself and not have to do this meditation where you have to perform and make sure that no thoughts cross your mind, but just in a more, I'm allowed to exist and enjoy myself and just sit with myself a little bit and have a nice time and learn something valuable along the way. We are in a very crazy time now. Like astrology-wise, like you get my newsletter, you already probably read this, but for those of you who don't, I do think it's worth mentioning. Like, it's rivaling the astrology that we saw in 2020, and we all know what kind of craziness that caused. So it's not the same, but it's equally intense. And yeah, I don't know what the world will even look like by the time this video comes out, because the election is tomorrow in the United States. So I don't know if anything will be decided by then or not. And even though that is the old system and the old era, and I do believe that a lot of how we experience life is up to ourselves, but we are part of a collective as well. So this is going to kick off some very big changes of what I think will be an old system dying. And in about 8 months' time, so much will have shifted that a lot of things will be very different from where they are now. And not really fathom how that's going to impact my life or your life. I don't know if we will feel it all the way up here in the middle of nowhere. But we might. And it doesn't mean it has to be bad, because all of these changes are very necessary. But they will present a lot of challenges. And if you can figure out this boundary thing the way I explained it to you today, that might help a lot. Because it will give you a lot more access to your power to deal with these things. But yeah, I think that was the most important that I needed to share with you today. And yeah, like I already said before, if you have questions about this, leave them in the comments and I'll try to address them another time or through another form. I don't know, I'm not sure how it's going to go. We're going to do a new topic next week, but maybe. I guess it will all depend on what kind of questions come in, whether we can continue on this. Maybe it's something that's related to this, so I can answer some questions and then maybe move into something else. It's a growth process, that's for sure, for me as well. But I am happy that I kind of got over myself and came anyways. I hope the video turned out okay, because the light is quite dark and there's a lot of smoke all the time from the campfire, but that's not the most important thing. Most important thing is that I can show up for you and be of some kind of support and help. And so, yeah, if you have other questions not related to what we talked about today, you can also send them. And then they might serve as the base for another episode. And if you like these videos and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. And there's also a little bell that if you click on that will tell you when the next video is online. So that way you never miss something. And if you need to reach me, go check out the description. There will be all sorts of ways where you can reach me. And you can also book personal sessions on there if you're struggling with something or you need guidance in any way, shape, or form. And then you can also go book a session down there. I know it's important that I learn to tell people, you know, what I do and what I offer and how it can help them. Sometimes it's just hard because it feels like a different energy. I don't have to shift my energy. And I'm quite happy with the explanation that I was able to do today. What I remember from it anyways. And then my energy just starts to come down, like it's like, okay, you did this. You finished this. And it's kind of all settling in. And then it's kind of weird to have to shift it as an, oh yeah, by the way, if you're la 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 la, you can also book this. And I also have this. And it's something I'm going to have to work with a little bit so that it's more in alignment. But, you know, you don't have to wait for that. No, you can figure it out. I always hate it when they say, when you watch these social media tutorial thingies, they go like, you can only put one call to action because if you put multiple, then people won't know what to do. Huh? Is that really true? I find it so insulting. Like, part of me understands it, but then I think, like, people who are my audience, it's impossible that they're not smart enough to be able to deal with a few options and figure out what to do, or that you even would have to tell them, that they would not go like, oh, let me go check there. Oh, it's not there, maybe it's there. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but I've always been kind of allergic to selling. I already know what I want, and if I want it, I want it, and if I don't want it, I don't want it, and you can be the best salesperson in the world, and it's not going to happen. So I hope that also goes for you guys, because when you are more of your authentic self, I believe that's an automatic consequence, that you actually know what you need and will go for what you need and get yourself what you deserve and find a way to get that without somebody having to push it and sell it and use all kinds of techniques and tactics to convince you to take that step. But anyways, if you resonate with anything that I say and you're curious if I could help you with something else that you feel like you could benefit from, an extra pair of eyes or ears or energy support, then you can always reach out to me. I even have a free clarity call option. So if you're unsure and you would like to talk to me a little bit person to person, you can just go on my website, book a 30-minute free clarity call where we can just talk and you can explain a little bit what you're looking for, what you hope to get help with. And then we can talk a little bit and you can feel into the energy and see if it could be a good match for us to work together. So all of that is available. And with that being said, the campfire here is kind of collapsing. It's still smoking a lot though. But I think it kind of means that it is time for me to end today's session. I never really want to leave though. But excuse me. That went almost wrong. That went almost down the wrong way. But I guess second sign that it's time to end this. I don't want to know what the third one is. I kind of feel like I have to pee, so I think that might even be the third one. Well, it's been my pleasure. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that it was helpful. And I hope that I will see you the next time. Thank you so much for watching. I love you.